Our committee meets this morning to receive testimony and observe demonstrations of the use of modern simulation technology in the Department of Defense. For years, the Department has relied extensively on computer modeling and simulation. Advances in simulation and modeling technologies are breaking down traditional approaches in the Defense Department at a time when innovative thinking is essential. Simulation has now become a key element in the training programs of all the services. It is used to develop new tactics, to design new weapons, and to test the effectiveness of those new designs. Our second witness is Dr. Victor Reese, the Director of Defense Research and Engineering. Dr. Reese has been one of the primary leaders in the use of simulation technology. He is becoming a frequent witness at our hearings this year, and we learn from him every time he appears, and we welcome you back, Dr. Reese.
These machines function to enable human beings to understand the complexity, the kinetics, the chaos of modern combat. They're no more than that. They're a catalyst for human comprehension. And we're going to use this machinery for you in various ways this morning to illustrate the verity that it is men, not ships, not aircraft, not vehicles, who fight and who win wars. If the Congress and the armed services are to address the future cogently, we must all rid ourselves of the notion that simulators are a cheap, but not wholly satisfactory substitute for flying, scheming, or driving. And I'm here to urge that we must all recognize that simulation is fundamental to readiness for war. You cannot today bring about combat readiness without some recourse to simulation. I also want to make the point with my cathartic that we are late come to wisdom in the armed services. We really did not understand combat well enough to be able to know how to affect the behaviors that would enable us to fight well and successfully until a very recent past. As a matter of fact, in the aftermath of the war in Southeast Asia.
The view that you'll see in front of you on the screen behind me is a picture of my tank at the lead of my troop on the afternoon of the 26th of February 1991. And to give you an idea of what had occurred before I got to this point here, is as the troop was moving east as part of a regimental offensive covering force to locate the enemy's main defenses, we came under heavy fire from the village you see off to the right of the screen. And Chris, if you take a look at that, our lead Bradleys came under heavy machine gun fire, and as you saw in the previous tape, we returned fire with the Bradleys and with 9 tank high explosive rounds.
As we go along here, you see something that you need explained, you ask the good captain to fly over there and have a look at it. And when I say fly, the fellow that's controlling all this is sitting right here with his back to you, and Chris can take you anywhere out there in time or space that you want to go. Okay, Captain, go ahead.
Glenn would like to ask.
Let me ask, where are your Bradleys in the infantry now that are falling in? Can you zoom in on those?
I want to get right up on the turret of that Bradley. Anybody that wants to look at this from Bradley point of view, from refuel, rearm point of view, from intel point of view, can pick the part of the simulation they want to study in detail.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering. You're working
Now
in all the different...
Now you're looking at, you're seeing what the Bradley guy sees.
All right, if you stop there, Chris. Mr. Chairman, that's the initial contact of the troop. As we crested this rise, my gunner was scanning back and forth with his turret. Off to the right front fender, he identified the first enemy tank through his thermal sights. At that point, I unbuttoned from the turret, also saw about 8 enemy tanks in revetted positions, or positions with dirt mounted up in front of them, and exhorted a little bit the 2 tank platoons behind me to come up abreast. I think it's important.
Can we see what you look like from the Iraqi position?
Yes, sir, we can. In fact, you can actually go to the tank that was destroyed.
Fly out there and look at the one that he just
From
shot.
that position.
And in the Iraqi position, that's the way they defended. They had these berms thrown up around the tank. That's T-72 in a defensive position. Now, what they could see was actually a lot less than he could see because his gunner is on thermal. The thermal sight can see a lot further than these guys can see with blowing sand, etc. So in most respects, these Iraqis were hit before they knew what was out there. Here we are in Washington. This is the Washington area. We are connected with the Institute for Defense Analysis, where there is a defense simulation center. And we are connected with Vienna, Virginia, where there is a simulator for the Pioneer unmanned aerial vehicle. We are connected by long-haul communications with Fort Knox, Kentucky. I'll show you what's down there, and with Fort Rucker, Alabama. In other words, some of the pilots that you're going to see flying here ain't here. They're down there. And some of the vehicles that you'll see are manned by crews that are located elsewhere. But they're all brought here into a synthetic environment, a battlefield, which is shown here. Now, this is a piece of terrain which represents Fort Hunter Liggett, California. This is the terrain that you're looking at here. This blue symbol here is an icon representing this aircraft right there. That's an F-16 Falcon. And that Falcon is today being flown by Major Pete Benani of the Virginia National Guard. Pete, raise your hand over there. McMaster, launch Pete. And drawing your attention over here, there's an icon that represents an AH-64 attack helicopter. That helicopter is represented by the simulator in the rear of the room, which is being flown by Chief Smokey Robinson. Smokey is a veteran of Desert Storm. He's from the 2nd 229th Aviation, Fort Rucker, Alabama. He's up here today. There's he in the picture out at in that synthetic environment out at Fort Hunter Liggett. Give the order to Smokey to get him moving.
Apache 1, Eagle 6, execute a right pedal turn 180 degrees and prepare to test fire weapons.
You'll hear voices on here. These are coming from these distant locations or from the guys in the rear of the room. Smokey now aloft, turning toward you. Okay. Now, we have another helicopter in the simulation. That's a scout helicopter, an OH-58 Delta. This helicopter is down at Fort Rucker, Alabama. Go ahead and get him into play.
Order 1, Eagle 6, lead Apache 1 to the battle position now, order.
He's been instructed to fly over, pick up Smokey Robinson, and take him into battle. Now, we have on this battlefield a weapon that doesn't exist any place except in this room and except in the form of a simulator. It is the line-of-sight anti-tank missile, a very high-speed, hypervelocity anti-tank killer, a future weapon system. We're learning about it with this simulator back here, and the simulator is manned by Sergeant First Class Charles Watt. Let's get the LOSAT into play.
LOSAT Eagle 6, scan your limits of fire. Enemy reported moving towards the engagement area now.
Have him swing that hammerhead around so we can sort of see how that goes.
Continue to scan.
Okay. Now we have also in play here in the battle some M1 Abrams tanks. These tanks are physically at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Abrams 1, Eagle 6, UAV reports enemy moving into the engagement area.
You can follow the action a little bit. The ships, of course, are actually right here. And they're participating in this operation in simulation. We'll have the Pioneer return to its mothership here. We'll get a glimpse of the ships. And these ships, of course, are under air protection. And the Navy has a F-18 up over them. very inexpensive simulator. Okay, let's stop right there. This is totally unrehearsed, as you can sort of detect by the way it was going. We didn't know what was going to happen, and you never do when you go into one of these affairs. You get all of the friction of war put into your training exercises. Point number two, we had many disparate elements. Most of our forces are stationed by type unit. Going to your point about infantry, it's important that you get infantry to mix it up every now and then with attack helicopters and jet attack aircraft. Here's a way that you can do it over great distances without a lot of time and expense.
General, can you maneuver your enemy also?
Yes, sir. The enemy is under intelligent control, and that's a very important point that Marshall came on very early in his career. You gotta go up against not cardboard targets that can't shoot back, but against a thinking enemy that's trying to do you in. And that's what is going on here. We could increase that enemy force virtually at will. So we can raise the odds. We can endow that enemy with technology like thermal sights and see whether that makes a difference in the battle. We can, in fact, change any of the parameters in this thing very inexpensively and try out new ideas, whole new combinations of putting forces together.
And you're saying that we have tremendous potential here in the joint arena that has not yet reached its anywhere near its potential.
That is entirely correct, sir. I would propose to you that, in fact, what the chairman needs is an alliance with a technological expert comparable to the sort of service that is provided to chiefs of service by their head of materiel command or whatever. And I don't see any alternative in the Department of Defense than an alliance between the chairman and the Director of Defense Research and Engineering to bring that sort of thing to pass.
Mr. Chairman, about a year ago, I asked Secretary Cheney what he expected from the department's technology program. He replied that the technology that had made such a major contribution to the victory in Desert Storm was not his technology, but had been developed by his predecessors, dating back to Harold Brown, Jim Schlesinger, and even Mel Laird. What he hoped would come from the current technology program was that if some military operation was necessary, some 15 years from now, it would be as successful as Desert Storm. And people would look back and say that the Cheney Defense Department had also provided some outstanding technology. Those were my only marching orders, Mr. Chairman, and I believe that the key to acquiring that technology, as well as training the type of forces we need, lies in the distributed networking simulation that we've discussed and demonstrated today. And the reason for this is simple but profound. Network simulation is a technology that elevates and strengthens the collective problem-solving abilities of human beings, people acting as teams, learning and getting better. And this is true whether they are design teams, manufacturing teams, education teams, training teams, acquisition teams, or warfighting teams. Network simulation with modern information technology can connect people together in an aligned, coherent, integrated enterprise. It is at the very heart of the department's technology strategy. Captain McMaster's team used this technology to do it right the first time in Easting 73. If we have the wisdom and courage to do it right, I'm convinced we can all be as successful as the 2nd Armored Cavalry. We can all be Top Guns.
On that note, we will close the hearings, and I hope everyone in the audience would feel free to take a look at the exhibits, and we'll spread the word, make sure all the senators know about it. Hopefully we'll be able to come by. Thank you very much.
Thank you.